So this week, I read that Shanks might be an ex-celestial dragon. I was planning on doing a different kind of video this week instead of another theory, but after I read that, I thought I'd dig a little deeper and see if I can't find anything substantial. Shanks is 39 years old, and 38 years ago was the incident at God Valley. This incident was only recently given light. I believe it was revealed around the time that One Piece Red was released. It was revealed by Sengoku when he revealed the bounty posters for all the Yonko. Whatever chapter that was, I can't remember. At this incident, the island of God Valley had a strange amount of very important people on it. For some reason, Rox D. Zebek was there. For another odd reason, Monkey D. Garp met Goldie Roger there. So there was 3 Ds on this island. The island was also governed by a world noble, thus there were world nobles present. It is not clear at all why Roger or Zebek was there. However, it can make sense why Navy Garp was with a world noble. As far as I could find, there was no conflict on the island prior to Zebek and Roger's clash. However, Zebek and his crew were extremely powerful, and this forced Roger to team up with Garp in order to defeat the Rock Pirates. Instead of fleeing with their tail between their legs, this defeat shattered the crew. You had people like Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, Captain John, and others that were a part of this crew that all went their own way into the world. Meanwhile, Zebek was killed in action. Also, the world government would shortly thereafter nuke the island into non-existence. It's unclear whether the island was simply written out of the history books or if it was literally destroyed. Revealed in Volume 4 Billion, we see that amongst the treasures stolen by the Roger Pirates, a chest is containing a baby Shanks. The crew is stunned by this revelation. And it is this very moment that spawned 2 theories. One, the one that I read first, was that Shanks must be the child of a world noble from that island. The second, the one I find more believable honestly, is that Shanks is the son of Rox D. Zebek. So let's get into the how and the why. I'm going to first explore and debunk the theory that I think is false, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the second theory and maybe put my own personal spin on it. So, what if Shanks is a world noble? The reason people think this is because pirates don't tend to travel around with heaps of treasure in One Piece. It's usually their bounty that they've claimed from a terrorized village or ruin or what have you. It's not often that you hear of, in One Piece particularly, crews traveling around with this massive treasure on their ship. That would suggest that the Roger Pirates pillaged the defeated Rock's crew, and the Rock's crew first pillaged from the world nobles on the island. This would most likely make Shanks a member of the Figarland family, but the only member known to exist in this family was just revealed in the most recent chapter 1086, and at the very last page at that. And Oda is currently on a 5-week pause so he can get eye surgery and recover properly, so it might be some time before we see any form of elaboration there. However, if we look at the feats and stunts that Shanks has done throughout the story thus far, it can be reasonably surmised that he has some sort of respectable status beyond being just a Yonko. At various points in the story, he has personally met with Gorosei or made demands of Sengoku, entities that should be his arch-enemies, and they've simply allowed him to do as he pleases. If he has the rights of a world noble and he's a Yonko, then the Navy and world government might see him as a double agent that they can benefit from somehow. This all makes sense to me, honestly. However, it would certainly give Shanks a more evil spin, assuming he's willfully helping them sometimes. And referring to my Gomu Gomu no Shanks video, which has a lot of errors already, Shanks may even have told them to kill Luffy. One thing is for certain with this side of the theory is that this would only add more mystery to Shanks. A grand reveal that he's a world noble would actually solve no questions for us. It would create some intriguing potential future, but it would simultaneously just be more confusing, I think. Also, if he were in fact a celestial dragon or world noble, would the government not seek to apprehend or rescue him from Roger's clutches? And if he went on to become a pirate later in life in direct opposition, why would they tolerate his intrusions? At Marineford, Sengoku said to him, "Because it's you, I'll stop the war." This could very easily just be because Shanks the Yonko is saying to stop, but it could also have some sort of world noble connection. The second theory is that he's the son of Rox D. Zebek. What's most interesting to me about this is that I've also heard that Blackbeard could be the son of Zebek. So let's dive into the Blackbeard bit first. Blackbeard's ship is called the Saber of Zebek, revealed in the 6th One Piece databook. Of all the carriers of the Will of D, Zebek and Blackbeard certainly seem to be the most antagonistic of the bunch. Thus, it is thought that Blackbeard is Rox D. Zebek's son. Why else would he honor some other random person? Well, here's my thought. I think that, however Blackbeard was raised, he learned about the feats of Rox D. Zebek. The reason this is important is because, although the world at large has little or no idea of Zebek's adventures, Blackbeard could potentially have more intimate details. What if Zebek had a devil fruit? What if Zebek's devil fruit was the Yami Yami no Mi? It would explain how someone as powerful as Zebek could be defeated, since the Yami Yami no Mi makes the user far more susceptible to damage. Thus, Blackbeard could have surmised that Zebek was as powerful as he was because of this fruit's other benefits. So he names his ship after Zebek because without Zebek's memory and devil fruit, Blackbeard wouldn't have anything. Hold on to this thought because this little detail actually bundles in with last week's theory about the will of devil fruits, but I'll come back to this shortly. In the case that Shanks is Zebek's son, I think Blackbeard knew that the Yami Yami no Mi was powerful because of Zebek. In the case that Shanks is the son of a world noble, then Blackbeard is most likely just Zebek's son. There might not be a fruit connection in that case. And just like Ace, Blackbeard may have taken his mother's name to hide his true familial connections. But I want to talk about the chest for a second. If Shanks was the child of a world noble, why would he be in a chest? Wouldn't he instead be in some sort of fancy space-age stroller? Heck, simply being the son of a pirate does not explain why he'd be in a chest either. It could be that in an insane effort to protect their child, they put him in a chest so pirates wouldn't notice him, except that pirates plunder so the chest would end up in their hands anyway. So no matter which way I try to cut it, the world noble idea just doesn't make any sense for Shanks to suddenly be in a chest. And I'm not refuting that Zebek went there to cause trouble for world nobles. Of course that's possible. No, it's more likely that he was always in the possession of Zebek. So why, in any case, would he be in a treasure chest? Well, shockingly, there aren't very many instances in the story where someone opens a chest. So it's not like it's normalcy for babies to be spirited away inside a chest. And in fact, as silly as this sounds, the most prominent moments in the story where I could find characters cracking open a chest were Chapter 1, where Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Chapter 744, when Sabo eats the Mera Mera no Mi, and Chapter 765, when the Opi Opi no Mi is taken out of a chest. For those less familiar, Opi Opi no Mi is Law's fruit, Mera Mera no Mi is Ace's / Sabo's, and of course Gomu Gomu is Luffy. Shockingly few moments throughout the story do treasure chests actually just have gold in them. And here comes the wacky part that I seem to keep doing in all my videos. Only ever seems to be devil fruits and people in these chests. Remember what I said in my Will of the Devil Fruits video last week. If Blackbeard can separate spirit or soul from a power, maybe Zebek, if he had the Yami Yami no Mi, chose instead to pull out just the power and leave behind the spirit. Maybe the act of doing the reverse transforms a fruit into a baby of the D-Clan. Blackbeard only seems to pull power from people, not from fruits. I mean, what's the point of pulling power from a fruit when your Nakama can just eat the fruit? Well, Zebek didn't want to share, he wanted the power to himself. So he had to use this technique on a fruit, because if he ate the fruit he would have died, right? He already had a fruit power. When Blackbeard shrouded Whitebeard and pulled out the fruit power, I posited previously that if there's a spirit that comes with this power, then Blackbeard liberates them. What I'm suggesting Zebek did was this. He went to God Valley where he knew a particular devil fruit was. He laid siege to the world nobles in order to attain this fruit, but because he already had a devil fruit, he had to just take the power from it. The act of doing this transformed the fruit into baby Shanks. So upon the revelation of Shanks' origin, I would argue that instead of being Zebek's son, he is instead a unique carrier of the Will of D. However, I recognize the insane, leaps and stretches I had to make to settle at that conclusion. It also doesn't help to explain any of his interactions with high-ranking members of the Navy and government. Additionally, Uda was also found in a chest, but other than her existence being canon, I don't know what else about her history is truth. If she is a real character, then she likely was found in a chest, which would have been in the time between when Zebek died and when Blackbeard got the fruit. And I recognize that this can easily thwart the whole theory. However, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Kozuki Toki shared the same name as her power, and I quote, "I have ever ventured farther into the future with this strange Toki Toki power of mine. Every translation I find says power, not fruit." Uta also shares the name of her power, except I couldn't find anywhere that anyone's implicitly spoken of her devil fruit other than a single sketch by Oda of what her fruit would have looked like. After my Gomu Gomu no Shanks video, I came across some tidbits that made me doubt my theory a little bit. However, since last week's Will of Devil Fruits video, I feel only bolstered in this insane theory. Just to set the record straight for everyone, I think Shanks... set the record straight as I say something insane. I think Shanks came from a fruit. God. And since all fruits by my own past theory are the clan of D, he is by virtue a D himself. I think Toki came direct from the Void Century as a D, but maybe during that time they went by a different name, and D was a brand by the government or some such, right? They didn't necessarily call themselves the clan of D. That's the secretive name that's been given to that clan because nobody's allowed to know what they are, right? I also think Uda came from a fruit if her origin is indeed canon, but I don't know how she was extracted from the fruit and became a person. And honestly, because I have no idea how she came to be, that one thread could dismantle my whole theory. I have no idea. I hope her history isn't true, or I'm missing some key detail there. The last, possibly most insane bit is that Shanks and Blackbeard are just brothers. That's just hilarious and too out there for me to latch on, but the timeline sets them just a few years apart in age. As Roger leaves God Valley with baby Shanks, Whitebeard could have easily done the same with a young Blackbeard. But then how would Blackbeard know his own name, other than just information by Whitebeard? Shanks has a vague name because he was a parentless baby found in a chest. I've also read that Zebek is still alive, locked away and impelled down. That just doesn't make sense to me. Someone as powerful as him being kept on level 5, which is what the screenshot entailed? Nah. And it could be that Shanks has a devil fruit too, but we've seen him in water, and he didn't die. So, even though Uta has the name and Toki has the name, Shanks doesn't have the name, and that does also hurt the idea. However, how would Roger even know that Shanks had a name, or had a devil fruit, or was a devil fruit, or anything like that? We have no idea. If this theory is somehow true, we have no idea how that attaches, right? Finally, my only real backup to this is that if devil fruits come from chests and are cursed clan of D members, then Shanks being found in a chest would be analogous to him being a carrier of the will of D. And with that, I think I've exhausted my current One Piece theories. Small ones I have might find their way into YouTube Shorts, because they legit take a minute to map out, but I'm not very good at editing, so we'll see what happens there. So coming up, I'm looking to do a triplicate of Naruto videos that I've been planning for some time. I also have some plans for reviewing certain series, as well as other deep dives on how certain stories and characters are written. Because I'm a lore guy, I like story, I like writing. That's my jam. My content for now will remain within anime and manga, but I'm also interested in branching out to Western novels down the road, so let me know what you most want to hear about. I'm pretty well read in manga, but if there's any suggestions for other manga I haven't read, I'd be glad to pick up new series as well. Thanks, folks.